So currently we've just finished Triad Wars 2. Triad Wars 3 is in the second round, almost in the third round, and I've been thinking about which future kinds of tournaments to offer. And I want to keep doing Triad Wars. I also want to have Random Wars. I think that's pretty locked in to be the next tournament. Will be an all random tournament. But I also wanted to consider other ideas, and I don't know if anyone who's been playing my tournaments ever played any of the weird tournaments I ran back on TTA, but I like to run some pretty strange tournaments. Now, nothing here is too off the wall, you know, but I wanted to throw out four ideas and see what people thought, some a little more out there than others, but all doing something I think is interesting or worthwhile. So I would love to get feedback if you look through these four ideas and say, I like these two and hate the other two. Please don't do those two, but I'll definitely sign up if you do one of these two. That would be great kind of feedback to hear. Or if there are tweaks that come to mind, I may adjust, I may not, but hearing ideas is always nice. So, first mode possibility is survival mode. And survival mode is going to be a mode where you have a card collection, something I think, just playing tournaments doesn't have is the card collecting element that I think is really fun. So your number of health points is going to be the number of cards you have. If you fall below 5 cards, you don't have enough to play a game, and you're going to not survive. You're going to die. Sorry about that. You're dead. You lost. So every single game played will be trade direct. And so if you win by a bigger margin, you'll have more cards, because if you win 7-3, you'll come away with 7 cards, having gone in with 5. But you might also care about, I don't want to lose this card, and I really want to win that card from the opponent's hand. And that might make you go for smaller wins that protect or gain certain cards. So I think there might be some trade-offs there that could be interesting. So every round you're going to bleed one card of your choice. So you can, pick the worst card, the lowest level card to get rid of. But it does mean eventually the mode is going to end, right? It's not going to last forever. I don't want the gameplay to take forever. I have set a maximum of 10 rounds, but I think there's a good chance it'll take a bunch less than that. So when I said 5 cards above, I was lying, because you're going to need 6 cards to both play and bleed a card. And I think you'll bleed before you play the game. You'll choose which card to give up. You're going to start with 8 health points with 8 random level 4 cards. Opponents you face will often have higher level cards than you. So, if you face in the first round an AI with level 4 and 5 cards, you might be able to snag some level 5s. If in the next round they have some level 6s, you might be able to snag some 6s and slowly improve your collection. So what else can you do? You can craft. If you trade in 2 cards of the same level, you will be awarded a random card from either 1 or 2 levels higher than that level. Now that card might not turn out to be entirely random. I haven't decided either way. I won't tell you how it works, but you will gain a card 1 or 2 levels higher. So you are spending a health point to get a better card. My suspicion is this is probably never smart to do, that the health is more valuable, but I don't know. You decide. And I may lock in that it's necessarily 2 levels higher because it sounds to me bad to do. So I think I'll probably make sure it's 2 levels higher to make it a more complex decision. You can also trade. If you have corners for 3 corners and you really want a corner for the 4th and you don't have cards that do that, you can make up to 1 card trade per round with another player, and it has to be of the same level so that you can't be like, I want that person to win, I'm going to trade them all my best cards for their worst cards, right? So it has to be the same level, and you can trade once a round. Also, you can trash talk, which has no gameplay benefits, but is highly encouraged. Who are you going to be playing? The first 3 rounds will be against AI, starting off quite weak to try to help you build up a bit of a collection. You'll start at 8 cards, 7 including the bleed, but hopefully you can grow that collection at least a little bit against the first 3 rounds of AI, which will be increasingly difficult. The 4th round will be against another surviving player. I will be having some strong AI in the player pool as well, but you will only play them if there's an odd number of humans, so someone has to be paired with someone else. So it might be, if there are 5 humans in it, then one of them's going to play against an AI. If there's only 1 human remaining and some of the AI are still alive, they will also be paired against an AI. It is wholly permissible. I do not mind at all if players cut deals. If you agree, let's make a tie, or I promise you I won't flip that card, or let's both agree to use our weakest cards so we feel like we're not risking stronger ones. But you will still bleed a card that round, so if you agree to a tie that game, you're both going to be slightly costed, but it might guarantee that you're not more costed than that. Breaking agreements is, of course, allowed. If you agree to make a tie, I still want you to play out the game, which gives the option to break agreements. But if you do so, that will then be made public, and you might have trouble making agreements later. Though, of course, if it's one of the last rounds versus humans, maybe no one ever has the chance to punish you for breaking that agreement. Rounds 5 and 6 will be played against more AI. Round 7 will be humans. Should anyone make it that far, which is very much not guaranteed. Round 8 AI, round 9 humans, and round 10 an AI, if there are any survivors left. So if you make it through 10 rounds, if you survive, which I think's pretty hard to do, I suspect no one will survive 10 rounds, but if there are any survivors left, they win. All of them are winners. Otherwise, the game ends when everyone has died, but either everyone has died because everyone died in the same round, or there is one sole survivor, or if round 10 has been survived. If you make it past round 10, you will be placed in terms of the total level of the cards in your collection. I'll just add them up, and that will be a tiebreaker if multiple people survive. Though, again, I think deaths are going to happen. So what makes this mode appealing, and why should you tell me, yep, this is the mode I want to play? One is direct trade's kind of interesting, not something a lot of us messed much with, and I'm curious to see how it affects the gameplay and might be a fun direction to go. Or it could be something that everyone hates, and that makes this mode problematic. You can see in downsides, I mentioned direct trade can be frustrating. This mode has a lot more player interaction, kind of decisions you make outside of just playing versus the other player. You've got trading, you can make potential agreements when you play against players. There's more going on there. We've got card collection, right? Playing these tournaments, you just pick your cards. There's no collection. What I'll do is I'll keep track of each player's connection, send you an image of your collection each round. You can choose which card to bleed, what your hand is from that, and I think that's going to be neat. A downside there is the card collection is going to be very small, and it will also change rapidly, right? Because of direct trade, oftentimes you can go into a game with 5 cards and leave it with 2 of the same 5 cards. Ties will, of course, count. And there's some decisions to make outside in gameplay. So I think this could be a fun mode. It could be adapted later if people like it, if I get the AI up and running and a computer game up and running into a kind of computer game form. A single-player game. But I do like the idea of interacting with other players, and I thought this was a fun idea, and I hope other people do too. Option number 2, closed cup. So a closed cup, in this mode you have 3 lives. Each time you lose a game, you lose a life, you lose 3 lives, and you're dead. What I want is people to not just be out if they lose their first round, but I also want it to be you can lose your first round and still come back and win the whole thing if you keep winning. If you lose twice, you can still come back and keep going and win. If you lose all 3 lives, you're dead. Maybe 3 lives is too many to give, and I should give 2. I'm going to be thinking about that, but it will be 2 or 3 lives per player. All games will be random from a given level, so like the first round might be level 6, and the next round might be level 2, and the next round might be level 9. And so it'll just be a random from that level. I'll pick it from a random number generator, and if a level has been used already, I will exclude it so that there can't be repeats. All rule sets will be the normal we've seen, though I do love no combo closed, so I'm tempted to add that in somewhere, but I think not this time. This would be an all-human tournament. My AIs aren't really ready for closed, though we'll get to this in a second. If there are, however, an odd number of players, I will include Basic Bob, who I can sort of translate what he does into closed, and it won't be the AI playing, it'll be me following a set of rules and trying to figure out what he'd play. But it is entirely based on his cards, what he'll make the decision, what's on the board. I've seen your hand, but I won't be making Basic Bob's decisions based on that. But just in case there's an odd number, that will help make sure the round makes sense. And you cannot be paired against the same opponent 2 rounds in a row unless there's no alternative. So if we get 8 humans, just going to be round robins as people are knocked out until there's only 1 left. What else can you do in this format? Well, what you're doing is playing closed, and that's the format. Why is this mode better than others? Well, we haven't done any closed, and I think it'll be really interesting to see closed games, right? Because everyone's played a lot of closed, but you haven't necessarily seen other people talk out their decisions. You didn't get to see their cards when they were playing. And I think it'll be interesting to see how different people handle different kinds of hands, because you saw how other people handled their hands in open because you could see their hands. And this way you might be able to see things you didn't get to see before, and I think that'd be really interesting. And also might draw in more people than we've had in the tournaments, because closed is a easier, control to play. I mean, it's easier to just play games and have fun and not have to spend 7 minutes calculating, right? This is the only mode that involves closed, so if you want closed, tell me you want this one. Downsides to it, it's got a smaller player pool than some other options, and there's no card collecting element. But obviously, that's not what this is about. It's about playing some closed. Mode number 3, Hero Mode. So at the start, you're going to select a deck. For our example, I'm just going to say you selected FF9. So you will receive all level 1 FF9 cards from that deck. You're going to play 10 rounds, and each round the level available will rise by 1. So in the first round, you can only use level 1 cards. You have all the level 1 cards of your deck available. In the second round, you can use level 1 and level 2 cards. In the third round, level 1, 2, and 3. In the fourth round, level 1, 2, 3, and 4, etc. up to level 10. After each round, you will receive points. We're going to be traditional with this. You can receive 10 if you win a game, 6 for a tie, and 3 for a loss. After each round, you can buy new cards. You may only buy cards from the deck you picked, the deck you're heroing, right? So you picked FF9, you can only buy FF9 cards. And the cost of a card is its level. So if you win the opening game, which I think most people will do, the AI in the opening game will be quite weak, you will have 10 points to spend. So you could buy 5 level 2s and be all set with a level 2 hand for the next game. But you could decide, I want to save some. And maybe you don't buy any level 2s and you buy 1 level 10 later, or you buy 2 level 5s down the road, or you buy 2 level 2s and save 6 points for later. There's no obligation to spend. And the goal is simply to get as high a score as you can over 10 rounds. One nice thing about this format is because it's kind of single player, because everyone's going to be playing against AI. If someone after 4 rounds is like, I'm doing badly, this isn't fun, I'd like to stop, that's fine. It won't hurt anyone else's experience. And one of the things about these modes is everyone still in should still have a chance to win, because otherwise they're going to be maybe easy opponents because they don't care, or they're not going to be invested. And it's nice when everyone's invested, which is one of the great things about a tournament format, is if you're still playing, you still have a chance to win. So one thing about this format is you might decide a few rounds in, this is going horrible, I'm displeased with it, I'd like to withdraw. And because everyone's going to be separate, that's totally acceptable. And the goal is simply to get the highest score you can over 10 rounds. If you win 5 games, tie 3 and lose 2, your score would be 6.5. Ties are half a point. Ties do count. What else can you do? So you get to buy new cards for your collection. You can also sell cards back. Each card can be sold back at half its value. So a level 1 card will earn you 0.5 points. And because you come with 11 level 1 cards, you might want to sell off, 6 of them and earn yourself 3 points that you could spend on higher level cards. A level 4 card is worth 2 points. A level 7 card is worth 3.5 points. If you get half a point, obviously you cannot spend it on anything, but if you earn another half point down the road, that adds up to a whole point that you could use. You can choose whether to buy cards now or save for later. If you decide, okay, I think the early AI are weak and I don't need high level cards to beat them, then you might want to save all your points or most of your points for later. Or maybe you think, I just want to really make sure I'm getting those 10 points early. So I am going to spend a bit early because I want to make sure I'm getting 10 points from those early rounds. And so I'm going to buy early just to make sure I get 10 points for as many rounds as I can. Or you might think the AIs at the end, if this is increasing difficulty every round, which it will be, are going to be really hard. And maybe I don't have a shot against those anyway, so I want to spend early or maybe in the middle to make sure I can grab wins where I can. So I think there's a bunch of strategy, but this is very much a single player mode. Who are you going to be playing? It's PvE. It's going to be versus AIs, not people. AI difficulty across rounds will be consistent for every player, so final scores are comparable. If someone scores 7 and someone scores 6, the person who scored 7 did a little better, at least against the AIs. First and second turn will be randomized for each player. In the tournaments, I've made sure everyone in the same round gets the same turn. This will not be the case in Hero Mode. I will randomize that. And they will increase in strength over time. Can we go to the next slide? Why is this mode better? It's got the most card collection element, right? You're going to have the most selection of cards. You're going to be able to potentially build up the biggest collection that you're probably going to be changing it a little, at least game by game. Um, so I think it's got more of a card collection mode and a kind of deck allegiance. I think there are strategic decisions to be made about where and when to spend points, and players could go very different directions with that and have those be reasonable decisions, I think. So I think it creates a complicated challenge. The downside of this is a mode with no human versus human play. It's all going to be versus AI. It's all a single player mode. I think it sounds like a good idea. I like the card collection. I'm curious to see what decisions people make. Level ones might perform pretty well against level twos. Are they so good against level threes? Maybe not. So I'm very interested to see how people would actually handle this and what it would look like. And yeah, this is one I'm curious about, but it doesn't have human versus human play, and I think that's really important to a lot of people. And finally, Clan Wars. So, Clan Wars, I would want 4 players on a team competing over 4 rounds, round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals with opposing teams. In each round, the 4 players on each team are going to be randomly paired with 4 players from an opposing team. The team that wins more advances. If a match is tied 2, then I will use game score as a tiebreaker. So 7-3 is more valuable than a 6-4, that kind of thing. If the match is still tied, then each team will select a player to compete in a hero match, and that match will go until someone's win. A team can sub out their hero between games if they want someone else to sub in. What else can you do? You can plan with your team. This is a team-oriented activity, of course. Who are you going to be playing? I'm going to fill out most teams with AI. However, if there are multiple human teams of 4, it is possible they will meet in some round. I also might consider, if someone was like, I want to be a team of me and a bunch of AI, I might consider allowing that if, we have 8 signups and there's a 9th or 10th person left over. Each round will have tougher AI teams in opposition. I'll make sure the standard increasing difficulty as each round goes. But that doesn't mean that each individual AI will be tougher, just that the opposing team overall is. Someone might get the really hard one, someone might get the not so hard one. That'll be randomized. Why is this mode better? Well, you get teamwork, you get to plan hands and strategies with your team and be, part of a team type setup. It's a traditional tournament that maybe you've missed, and you get to play for others rather than just yourself. I think a downside is, if 4 players go, we're the best, we're all on a team, it can leave others feeling left out or unwanted, which I never particularly like, and it does sort of need to have a multiple of 4 for players. So those were the 4 things I thought of. So I'd love to hear if any of these modes sound appealing, or if there's anyone like, please not that, or just letting me know which ones you'd sign up for and which ones you wouldn't. You can also say, don't do these, have more Triad Wars, do more Random Wars. I'm sure I will throw some oddball stuff in there, but I'm happy for now at least to be doing standard stuff as well. I don't feel I have to throw any of these out, though I'm a little excited about some of them. So personally, I don't think we have the components for a good Clan Wars. If people really want to do it, that'd be fine. But, there aren't really clans now. There's not something to be playing for the honor of kind of feel. So if people are really into that, then I'm happy to do it. But that's the one I kind of threw in there as I should give some option like this, but I'm not personally enthused. For me, I think survival mode and hero mode sound goofy, so I'm all about them. Closed cup, however, also interesting. I'd love to see people talk through their closed moves. This is something I never really got to see, and I can't. You'd have to, pull the cards back off the board and figure out why they did each move they made to really understand why good closed players did the moves they did, and I would love more in-depth in-game explanations. So those are the modes. All of them are subject to tweaking. Nothing here is final. I'm open to other ideas, but these are the ones that came to me and I'm sort of ready to do. And I'd love to hear feedback. I think that's everything. Yep. So let me know if any of these appeal. I'm happy to ignore them all, but I do like running stupid tournaments, so I think these would be fun.